In the 15th century, Vlad Dracula, the Prince of Wallachia and Transylvania, rules his domains in peace, but he wasn't always a peaceful ruler. As a boy, Vlad was taken from his family and raised in the Ottoman Empire, where he was forced into the Sultan's elite Janissary corps. There, Vlad was trained to be a warrior, fighting relentlessly on behalf of the Sultan and earning a dark reputation as the fearsome Vlad the Impaler, son of the dragon. But as he grew older, he became horrified by his own violent acts and chose to leave that life behind, returning home to rule his people with a vow to never return to such brutality. One day, Vlad and his soldiers come across a helmet floating down a mountain stream. They quickly realize that it belongs to the Ottoman army, and Vlad fears the worst. An Ottoman scouting party may be preparing for an invasion. Vlad tracks the helmet upstream to Broken Tooth Mountain, an ominous peak rumored to be cursed. At the top, he and his men find a cave filled with bones. Suddenly, they are attacked by a horrifying creature, a bloodthirsty vampire who slaughters Vlad's men with ease. Barely managing to escape, Vlad flees the cave and returns to his castle, where he consults Brother Lucian, a monk who identifies the creature as an ancient vampire. The monk explains that this vampire was once a Roman general named Caligula, who gained supernatural powers by striking a deal with a demon. However, his powers came with a price, and he was cursed to remain imprisoned in the cave forever. Shaken but determined to protect his people, Vlad returns to his family. His wife, Marina, and his young son, Ingres, are his pride and joy. They celebrate the Orthodox Easter together, but their joy is short-lived. An Ottoman envoy arrives at the castle, bringing with him a sinister demand from Sultan Mehmed II. Vlad must provide a tribute of boys from his land, including his own son, to be trained as janissaries in the Ottoman army. Having experienced that fate himself, Vlad is unwilling to subject his son to the same horrors and refuses the Sultan's demand. But he knows the refusal will provoke a war, and he feels helpless to stop it. Desperate, Vlad decides to confront the vampire in the cave, hoping to strike a deal that might save his people. The vampire offers him a dangerous choice. By drinking his blood, Vlad will gain the powers of a vampire for 3 days. If he can resist drinking human blood during that time, he will revert to a mortal. If not, he will be a vampire forever, and the ancient vampire will be freed from his prison. Seeing no other way to protect his people, Vlad accepts the offer. Almost immediately, he feels the effects of the vampire's blood. His senses sharpen, his strength is amplified, and he can even transform into a swarm of bats at will. Vlad returns to his castle just in time to face an Ottoman attack. Using his newfound powers, he single-handedly defeats the invading army, slaughtering them with supernatural strength. He then orders his subjects to take refuge at Kozia Monastery, hoping it will keep them safe from further attacks. However, Vlad's new powers come with a terrible thirst for blood that he struggles to resist, especially as he's surrounded by frightened and vulnerable people. That night, the Ottoman forces advance on the monastery. Vlad uses his powers to summon a massive swarm of bats, driving away the enemy soldiers. But the attack was only a diversion. A small group of Ottoman soldiers infiltrates the monastery, killing the villagers and taking Ingres hostage. Marina tries to protect their son and, in the ensuing struggle, falls from the monastery's wall. Though Vlad rushes to save her, he arrives too late. As she lies dying, Marina urges him to drink her blood, so he can gain the strength to save Ingres before the sun rises. Heartbroken, Vlad drinks her blood, triggering his final transformation into a true vampire. With this act, he also inadvertently releases the ancient vampire from his curse, freeing him to roam the earth once more. Now fully embracing his powers, Vlad turns the remaining villagers into vampires and leads them to the Ottoman camp, where Sultan Mehmed prepares for an invasion of Christian Europe. Hidden by a thunderstorm, Vlad and his vampire army descend upon the camp, massacring the Ottoman soldiers. Vlad finally reaches Mehmed's tent, where the Sultan awaits him with a cunning trap. The floor is lined with silver coins, which weaken vampires, and Mehmed wields a silver sword. The two engage in a brutal fight, and despite his powers, Vlad struggles against Mehmed. The Sultan nearly kills him with a wooden stake, but Vlad manages to transform into a swarm of bats and evade the final blow. He then takes the stake and drives it through Mehmed's heart, killing him and drinking his blood. Victorious, Vlad returns to his vampire army, now surrounded by darkness and rage. But his relief turns to horror as he realizes that his newly created vampires have lost their humanity and hunger only for blood, including that of his son. As the vampires close in on him and Ingres, brother Lucian arrives, wielding a cross that repels the vampires. Realizing what he must do to protect his son, Vlad says a tearful goodbye and pushes Ingaraz into the monk's care. In a final act of sacrifice, he uses his powers to clear the storm clouds, allowing the sunlight to burn away himself and his vampire followers. Just as Vlad is about to die, a servant from earlier in the story pulls him from the sunlight and revives him with his own blood, restoring Vlad to life as a vampire. Centuries later, in modern-day London, Vlad, now living in secrecy, meets a woman named Mina who looks strikingly like Morena. They exchange a meaningful look, hinting at a rekindled love. From the shadows, the ancient vampire watches, having waited for Vlad all these years, setting the stage for an eternal struggle between two cursed souls.